Would you like to simplify your wedding planning into 12 manageable steps? Let me show you how. Hi, you amazing couples. I'm Matthew, multi-award winning wedding photographer and owner of Fitzpatrick Photography. I provide inside tips and tricks on how to plan your perfect luxury wedding and take away some of the mystery and stress related with planning a wedding. If you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button and also the bell notification so you can keep up to date when new videos land. I'm also over on Instagram at the.fitzpatrick, so make sure you come over and check me out there. We post lots of behind the scenes footage. We've obviously got wedding highlight reels, etc. So come and check me out there. In this video, however, I'm going to share over 13 years of experience and help break down the wedding planning process into 12 manageable, although not small, steps. So, over 4 years ago now, me and my wife were in exactly the same position many of you are today. We were on the start of our journey planning our own wedding. And despite some 11 years now as a wedding photographer, it was daunting for us as well. So any kind of nerves experience you're feeling, that is completely natural. Wedding planning it's not something we do on a day-to-day. Few of us have got vast experience of sitting down, planning out a wedding and understanding all the bits and pieces that come together to make the perfect day. So how do you break that down into 12 steps? Well, these will be 12 larger steps, and then we'll be releasing further videos going into each step in more detail, and then looking behind the scenes, talking to other vendors, etc., to really help give you all the information you need to be able to start the journey. So, step number 1, budget. Budget, budget, budget. It's the least exciting one, but it is the step that you need to organise to remove as much stress as perfectly possible. Sit down, look at what money you've got, decide what you can afford, and try to stick within that. It's very easy when planning a wedding to get carried away. Increasing the numbers, pushing the food, adding extras here and there can really stress the budget, and this is one of the biggest causes of stress for any couple planning a wedding. So sit down, work out what you can, what you can't afford, and start here. And as I said, this is the first step. This is the foundation for everything else. Get this right and the rest of the process is much more fun. So, step 2, your basics. So once you've got your budget in mind, you can then start to think about the basic foundation for your wedding. The date, the number of guests, who you would like in the wedding party, and an overall feel on style. Don't get too bogged down on the style. This will come into its own later on, but early on you want an idea of whether you want a barn wedding, maybe a country castle, a country house, whether you want something more small and bijou, but an idea of what you're looking for, just to give you a direction to where you go. Budget may help guide some of this, and this is why budget should always come first, but your budget will dictate to a certain extent is, can you get married in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 48 months? And there's a bit of play along the way. It's kind of, okay, well, if we want all this and we don't have the money now and we can't have the money in 12 months, do we look at 2 years? Do we look at further? Guest numbers, this will probably be one of the single biggest influences on your budget. Catering and venue hire will depend on your number of guests. So if you're planning a vast country hall, having a small wedding party of 20 would feel lost. Similarly, if you're having a small country cottage, a wedding party of 200 would feel cramped. So, how many people do you want at the wedding? Who do you want on the wedding party? This may be bridesmaids, groomsmen. Who do you want involved and to be with you on the day? And then, as I said, style. This is at this point in your planning, it's a vague idea of where you want to go with the style without getting too bogged down in the detail. So step 3, planning, which seems strange when this is planning guide and step 3 is planning. Step 3 is coming up with the tools that you need to plan your wedding. Early on, spreadsheets may work for working out approximate budgets, for working out guest numbers, etc. But as your wedding plan grows and becomes more complicated, there are any number of wonderful and free tools now available, and we will look into this in later videos, that can help you plan, tweak your budget, etc. So that is planning, and this is really when you want to slot this in. So you have a budget in mind, you have a date in mind. Now start bringing in the planning tools to start to bring this all together so that you can use that going forward. Step 4, I'm going to run out of fingers because this is a 12-step guide and I've only got 10 fingers, is venue. Choosing your venue is probably the longest process in planning your wedding. If you have your budget and you have an idea of style, you're then on the way to starting to plan what venue may fit in that. When we have a look later on in a later video on planning, some of these tools will enable you to also bring in ideas for venues, whether you want local, whether you want abroad, whether you want to stay within the UK but maybe you don't care where in the country you get married. For example, me and Julia, when we got married, we're both in the northwest, but we chose to get married in the lakes. Our family is scattered to, well, around all 4 corners of the world, so it didn't really matter when it came to planning it. But if everybody lives in the town or city where you live, then maybe getting married there makes more sense. This is independent to you and your circumstances. But choosing the venue is the first real big decision you will need to make in planning your day. Once you have your date and once you have your venue, your wedding is more or less fixed, and then you can start slotting in the other vendors and suppliers around those plans. So step number 5 is design and style. So you have your budget, you now have a rough idea of style, you have a venue. Now you can start thinking in a little bit more detail about how that will come together in the style for your wedding. So whether that is colour theme, whether you're going for opulently decorated, whether you're looking for something more pared back. Colours, themes, will you be going for candelabra and a rustic feel, or do you want something more modern? Here is also a great time to start using tools such as Pinterest, where you can bring in ideas that you've seen online, bring them into your own mood board, and this is something we'll cover in another video in detail. But actually bringing all this information together and bringing together a style and feel to your wedding. And this should be personal to you. This is your wedding, it's a celebration of your love for each other. So the style and theme of your wedding should really celebrate who you are, what's important to you, and bring that into your day. Step 6, stationery, signage and guest management. And no, I'm not talking about going into the hotellery industry, if that's a word. So stationery is pretty straightforward, or at least you think it is until you start trying to choose stationery. But stationery can be as simple as a card inviting your guest to wedding day, to a complete pack which has everything from a save the date, invitation, RSVP, menu lists, accommodation options, order of the day, etc., etc. What you choose will be decided by your theme, your budget, and your own personal choices. Wedding day signage is more to do with information signage, playful or not, that you may have up on your wedding day. So this can be everything from before your guests take a seat for the ceremony, pick a seat, not a side, sit where you wish, to requests for the wedding to be unplugged, or if you're going the other way, a hashtag link to your Instagram account where you want all your friends and family to share their photos to. Whatever is right for you is right for you. But have a think down of anything that's important to you. Is there any way that you can express that, not just in the stationery that you send out, but also as reminders? Actually, on the day, this can be chalkboards, this can be little signs, something from Etsy. There are many, many different ways to do this. And again, budget, style, and taste, this will all decide that for you, and everybody's different when it comes to this. Guest management is not about running the hotel itself, but this is about supplying information to all the other vendors, having all the details that you have collected and all the information needed in a way that you're able to pass this on. One of the biggest causes of stress on a wedding day is vendors not knowing what the plan is and then having to ask you, what do you want us to do? On your wedding day, you should not be planning your wedding. On your wedding day, you should be relaxing, you should be enjoying the day. And the best way to do this is make sure that all the information has been passed over and that you are sure that everybody has all the information they need in advance of the day. So this can be from, if your guests have had menu choices, making sure that a list of this has been set out, preferably in accompanying with table plans, so where each of the people are sat, what they have ordered, and any dietary requirements. Clearly labelled, set out, and provided to whoever is providing the catering, if this is the venue or if this is an outside caterer. If you can supply this information, they will absolutely love you. Other information can be playlists for your DJ or for your live entertainment. Without input, they will play what they think you want. But there's nothing to say that the same music all day will work. So if you've gone for maybe a rock theme for your wedding, maybe you want something a little bit softer during the ceremony. If you've gone for something a little bit more classical, maybe you want something a little bit more upbeat past 9-10 o'clock when some people may have gone to bed. Have a think about how your day is going to play out. Have a think about what you want to happen when or where, and help your suppliers by supplying that information in advance. The more information you can provide, the less questions you'll be asked on your wedding day, the less stress you'll have to deal with on your wedding day. Step 7, etiquette. Today in the UK, there are really no strict rules on what you can and can't do on your wedding day. Understanding what's typical and what is traditional is a good place to start, just to get an idea of possibly the running order or the way things may happen. That said, once you know them, there is no reason to stick to those rules, and you can throw them straight out if they're not for you. But understanding the basic etiquette around a wedding, who theoretically sits where, what order certain things happen within the day, and all these bits and pieces are useful if you want to stick to the etiquette and don't want to make any faux pas by seating somebody in the wrong place. Going with etiquette works here. If really you don't care and you just want to make sure that nobody complains, stick to the etiquette. But that doesn't mean that you have to stick to the etiquette. It's just simply, it's there as a guide. So having a read of the information available, trying to look to incorporate that if you wish, and just be fully aware that you can choose to ignore it if you wish. There are very few strict rules when it comes to planning your wedding, so plan your day. Ceremony. The amount of involvement you will have in planning your ceremony is likely to depend on whether you're going down a religious wedding or whether you're going through the civil route. So if you're going with a religious wedding, you may have some input in the hymns, the songs, the readings. Obviously these will have to be agreed by whoever's officiating the wedding, but the structure will probably be pretty much predetermined. If you're going down the civil ceremony route, music, there are a few rules that can't be religious. You may wish to choose readings or personal vows. These can all be added, etc. So this is all the details that once you're a little bit further down the route, you can start to look at and decide what you want to include, what you don't want to include. Other things for the ceremony is that if you're having a civil service, quite often music will be played during your entrance and leaving the room. Speaking to somebody in advance who's happy to take control of that, because it won't normally be the celebrants or the registrars who are willing to do that. You will need to find somebody who's willing to take care of the music. And just going through these details in advance, again, it helps remove any stress on the day if you've looked into all the details in advance and you know what your plan is on the day. Reception. This pretty much covers everything after the ceremony. So this is your drinks reception, this is your wedding breakfast, this is the evening reception, your first dance, cake, buffet. All of this falls under the title reception. Once you have your venue, once you have your style, you will then be able to have an idea of whether the venue will be able to supply the style that you want to go with, any kind of theme that you've come up with, what you will need to bring in from outside. Timelines are typically provided by the venue, but these are always subject to discussion. So if you want to add additional time on, that's not a problem as long as they know in advance. So there are things like that. It's going through and looking through all the details. So when it comes to your reception, typically you will have your ceremony followed by a drinks reception, followed by a break, which would be the time normally used for photos, followed by your wedding breakfast, which is typically about 2 hours. Then you'll have an hour between the end of your reception or wedding breakfast, and speeches. There's then roughly an hour break there that is then followed by the evening reception. About 1 hour after the start of your evening reception, you'll then have your cake cut, first dance, and then party on to the evening. When it comes to the evening reception, again, this is normally when you either live music DJ, so choosing which ones you want to hear, discussing playlists, whether you want to change this as the evening goes on, so whether you want to start with something quieter, first dance, maybe a little bit quieter then during the buffet, and then a little bit more lively into the evening. Again, that's perfect. That's entirely up to you. Whether you have any plans for entertainments, any activities planned in the afternoon, that would normally be that kind of intermittent time between reception and wedding breakfast reception, and then early into the reception. For your first dance, things like, do you want the dance floor for yourselves for the entire song, or will you be wanting to invite your friends and family onto the dance floor very soon? After you've had 2 or 3 minutes on the dance floor by yourself, please everybody get up. We don't want to be up here by ourselves for too long and with everybody staring at us. These are things to think about, and start planning in for the details of reception. Having, again, these details and knowing roughly when you want the times to be will really help remove any of the stress on the day by people not having to ask you. So if you've already told your venue that this is what time we want to do the cake cut, this is what time we want to do the first dance, and they have that information, they know the running order, they know that you're happy with that. There may be some flex because weddings days, timelines flex, but you know that everybody is on board, everybody knows the plan, and you can be, as I said, left to enjoy your evening and just enjoy your day. So, once we've got through that, it's on to step 10, and this is where I now run out of fingers, and that is details. And this will either be the most fun and most exciting part of your wedding planning, or the bit that you hate the most. Some of us love to get really creative and plan in all manner of little bits and pieces and bring in outside wedding dresses and ideas and kind of bits and pieces to make the day completely ours. Other people just want plain and simple, and both are perfectly fine. If you are stressed out by the idea of planning all the details and all the little bits and pieces, skip them. If you really enjoy it, just don't get carried away. You can easily blow your budget on one or too many details. Details are a great way of just personalising the day and making it yours. So you can add anything from a little bits and pieces to quite a lot. Just be careful not to go overboard, really. This is when the Pinterest board that we've spoken about previously, you can start pulling all those ideas together and kind of really starting to narrow down from that initial brain dump of just every photo that you've seen and that you like just dumped in there, and kind of going, okay, well, just tweak this and that, yeah, we like that, and that's not it, and bring that data together as your own. As I said, if that is your idea of hell, yeah, just go with plain and simple. It's neither is right, neither is wrong. It's just what works for you and what brings you joy. But keep in mind, budget. So that is everything up to really the night before your wedding. Night before your wedding is really, you want to be able to switch off, relax, have 1 or 2 drinks, but just remember you need to be reasonably sober the next day. But depending on how you're planning your wedding day, whether one of you is staying at the venue the night before, whether you're both staying at the venue the night before, make sure that you've got in mind that everything's planned and set up so that on the night before you have nothing to think about. It is all planned, it is all set in stone, you know what is happening. all the details are being cared of. You've spoken to everybody who's involved in your wedding day. They all know their roles. Come the night before, you want to know that everything is sorted and that you have nothing to worry about. Sit back, relax, have a drink, chill out, and just make time for yourself, just to breathe. Just, it's here. It's time to be excited. The last thing you want to be doing is finishing planning the night before. But so yeah, make sure that everything's out of the way so that on the night before you can relax, you can enjoy yourself with whoever you've chosen to have around you, whether that's friends or whether that's family, or whether it's just to be by yourself. Just make sure everything's out of the way, sorted. And then come the wedding day, everything should run like clockwork. So step 12, and now I've definitely run out of fingers, so I won't bother holding them up. Step 12 is your wedding day. At this point, if you follow the previous steps, you've stuck to your budget. You're not stressed about that. You've planned everything. You've made sure that everybody's involved has got the information they need for your day. You can relax and you can enjoy your day. Come your wedding day, do not worry about the timeline. It's as long as everybody else knows where they need to be and what time and everything else, don't worry about the timeline. If things run 5 minutes late, 15 minutes late, don't worry about it. It happens. If everybody knows what the timeline is and there is flex built into that, then if for some reason things run a little late or what have you, for the reasons that they always do on a wedding day, nobody's panicking. It's all down. Everybody knows what happens next when, and can move around very easily without having to ask you what's happening. On your wedding day, it's just make sure that everybody knows what their role is, what the plan is, and relax, enjoy it, and have a brilliant day. So, thank you for staying to the end. Again, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification. We'll be dropping a lot more videos like this, giving you some of my 13 years of experience, inside tricks and knowledge, and sharing my insight on planning a wedding day, and hopefully it will be of use. So, see you soon.